welcome to Ask Alec, where I take your questions on anything poker, business, or life related. I answer them in quick, short videos, hopefully 5 minutes or less. Today I have two questions. They are similarly related, and I'm going to combine them both here because both of them were about coming up on my journey. So one is from Dallin Milne, who asks, "Hey Alec, loving your videos and blog posts. My question is, how old were you when you decided that you wanted to pursue poker as a profession?" He also says, "Was there ever an aha moment where you realized that this was something you wanted to do?" So Dallin, this is a great question. When I first started playing poker, I was 16, and I remember winning the first time I played, which of course made me fall even more in love with the game than I already had. And I was around a lot of people that loved playing, and I talked poker all the time. And of course, like any hobby or passion you have, whether it's video games or poker or whatever, I remember seeing other people that had done this for a living and on TV for the first time, and we were being exposed to this brand new industry. And I remember thinking, this was the first time I ever had that thought of, oh my gosh, it would be unbelievable to do this as a professional. It'd be so cool to be like Phil Hellmuth. I read Play Poker Like the Pros when I was 16, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is like the most badass thing ever. And so that was the first time I had the thought. But it was a big distinction between having the idea that this was something that I would love to do, and that was a dream state of mind that I was in. I was thinking like this would be a dream, and where that idea of being a dream transitioned into something that was more of a decisive moment took me 2 years to get to that point, maybe 3 years to get to that point. And that was when I was 18, definitely. I was 18 at the time. I was at SMU in Dallas, Texas. And I do remember like the specific moment when I committed to being a professional poker player. I basically decided this is what I'm gonna do. And tomorrow, instead of getting up and having my first priority in my life, it's all about, your profession is all about like what you tell yourself you are and how you treat yourself. And before that, I was treating myself as a college student first that loved to play poker on the side. And I remember getting up the next day and saying, okay, the number one in my life is poker, and I'm a professional poker player, and I'm gonna try and go to college on the side. And that was a huge distinction for me. And there was really no difference in my ability between the day that I got up and decided that I'm gonna make poker my number one priority and the day before, where I got up and college was my number one priority or something else was my number one priority. But that really changed my mindset completely. And so that act of deciding and that act of committing to being a professional really changed my entire outlook and approach. It changed the way I treated myself. It changed the way I looked at the game. It changed the way I played the game, because now it was telling other people, I was starting to commit to this story that I was a professional. And when I met people, I was wanting to become that person. And so I had to fake it till I made it, and it led me to becoming that person. So that was like the aha shift for me, where I really, basically it was a change of mindset that happened first. And it was that affirmative decision to say, now I'm gonna be a professional. And that was the difference between acting on something and becoming it, rather than just remaining for the rest of my life in a dream wishing mentality of saying that would be cool someday. It actually became me, and that made all the difference. The big sort of event that happened was, I went to play a huge tournament in Aruba, and I was very young at the time. I made the final table, and I cashed for a large amount of money, which gave me confidence. I made the final table when I was 18 or something, and that gave me a huge boost of confidence coming back to college to make that decision. But I still think the big thing is taking that actionable step, because there's so many things that line up in your life where you could have the opportunity to do something, but it's really the acting on it that made all the difference for me. The second question kind of goes along with this, that actually influenced me a lot throughout my career and at this time, was from Nan Nguyen, who says, "Alec, what type of education have you gone through?" I talked a little bit about that, but he says, "Since you started a poker career early, you must have read a lot of psychology and sociology books. Name a few of your favorite non-poker books." So I talked a little bit about my education. I did end up leaving school to play poker full time. I really was at a position where I really loved learning, and I've learned a ton throughout my career, and it's been always a huge passion of mine, but I felt like I got an education on the road and in life and through my subjects of interest. Unfortunately, I couldn't do that formally, because in order to play poker at the levels I wanted to compete at, I really was at a spot where I had to choose. That being said, I did always feel like educating myself was extremely, extremely important, both on and off the table, to long-term success and thriving. So a few books that really helped me, also that I feel like help poker players specifically, and the way they sort of see the world and approach the game. One of the big breakthrough books I read that shifted my mindset completely on poker, from an analytical, mathematical sort of like expectation, understanding of the luck, the variance, and the results-oriented bias involved in poker was Fooled by Randomness by Nassim Taleb. I read this book when I was 19. It completely changed my world. It basically taught me how to think about the game analytically and separate the facts from the noise, and separate good play from bad luck, and how to focus on what actually matters in poker and not get caught up in the noise and the BS, and really understand the role of luck and variance. And I think to be successful at poker or business or really anything in life, I think that's really, really important. That book was a complete game changer for me. Really technical and mathematical, but I highly recommend it. That was a huge read. Another one that I really liked was Tim Ferriss's 4-Hour Workweek. I read this when I was 19, and it was huge for me. I really understood much more about what I actually wanted from a lifestyle perspective, sort of like the life I wanted to create around poker, and what sort of things I actually valued, what things were important to me, and basically like realizing that I wanted to work smarter, not harder in my career. And he gives you a lot of insight into the differences between what actually it means to be rich, what you actually want money for, and what actually things actually have value in your life that give you happiness and pleasure. And that book was another game changer. That was huge. I read that when I was 19. So these two things came together, and it was like complete perfect storm for me. So those two are my highly recommended reading. One more for spiritual, like psychology, like mindset sort of thing. I really like anything by Eckhart Tolle. The Power of Now is great. Anything by him is really, really good. So sorry for the plane, but hope you enjoyed the Ask Alec series. If you have questions of your own that you'd like me to answer, shoot them to me on my blog, alectorelli.com, and send me your best questions. I'll choose my favorite ones and put them here in a video for you guys. That's it. See you next week. Thanks, guys. Bye.